Alrighty, greetings and salutations everyone, my name is Andrew Kirchhoff and welcome to our Wednesday afternoon live stream for week 4 of the 2025 fantasy football season. Over the course of the next hour, yes, exactly 1 hour from now, the stream will be ending. But for over the course of the next hour, we're talking all things fantasy football related. So if you guys have a question, be sure to go ahead and ask in the live stream chat. If you want to claim priority, get those questions answered quickly before the end of today's live stream, you can go ahead and send in a super chat and of course include your message within said super chat. I hope you guys are doing well on this wonderful Wednesday. Again, earlier today, I did post my top 40 wide receiver rankings for week 4, including all of the potential options that we may go ahead and play. There are some other alternative options like a Trey Tucker, potentially a Matthew Golden that you may be interested in playing in the deeper league, but we'll discuss all of that over the course of today's live stream. Again, a quick reminder before we get into today's scheduled questions. Again, if you guys want my Sunday morning rankings every Sunday for the remainder of the season, from my email directly to yours with up-to-date rankings for those Sunday morning, games, be sure to go ahead and check out Betr. Again, there's a link down in the description. When you sign up today using code Andrew, making that first time deposit minimum of 10, and of course, making that first time play minimum of $1 within a real cash play, picking more or less on a given player's stats, you'll be eligible to get those rankings. All that information down below for those of you interested. Thank you very much. Of course, like I've mentioned before, you got to be eligible via the map to the right side of the screen. And as long as, of course, you sign up today, you get a free $10 when using code Andrew. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do what I did yesterday. I'm going to put up the live stream chat and we'll go ahead and we'll answer questions. I did see a couple that I wanted to answer before we even get into it. Charlene, I hope you're doing well. I just wanted to go ahead and let's see, what did Charlene end up saying? Yeah, so you had mentioned this. I ended up reading these questions prior to the stream beginning. You were saying something in the matter of that you were able to pick up Diggs, which is beautiful, and then also you were able to pick up Golden and Ollie Gordon. I think those are fantastic pickups going forward. Somebody was asking, I think Evans or DJ Moore. Okay, Evans and DJ Moore for BTJ. I don't have an issue with it, again, because of Evans most likely missing like about 3 to 4 weeks here. Someone was saying Bucky Irving and Rice for Saquon Barkley at 1 and 2. Shannon, I don't mind that at all. I like the idea of bringing in Saquon Barkley and selling Rice now because, again, you are in need of victories in the short term. And I think Saquon Barkley is somebody that, again, if you can go ahead and bring in on the roster, it's always a benefit to your roster going forward. Mahomes or Love this week. I prefer to play Jordan Love over Mahomes. Steelers or 49ers. I think both of them can be argued for. I would just prefer to play the 49ers against the Jacksonville Jaguars this week. Sam Darnold or Carson Wentz. As of right now, I'd probably lean towards playing Sam Darnold tomorrow night. Okay, let's get into answering some of these super chat questions that were sent in. And we'll begin with Fantasy Forecast. Thank you very much. Fantasy Forecast says, I have Herbert, Benson, Bucky, Sutton, A.J. Brown, AR5 as an Anthony Richardson, I'm assuming, because I don't know who the heck AR would be outside of that. We have Jawan Johnson, my bench consisting of Judkins, Quentin Johnston. Who the heck else would be AR? I think I've lost my mind. It's got to be some other player that I'm completely just overlooking. AR5? I don't know. Anyway, Quinshon Judkins. We have Quinshon Judkins. We have Quentin Johnston. We have Javonte. We have Mooney. We have Burden. We have Daniel Jones. Trade my A.J. Brown and Javonte Williams for his Jacobs. I think you're giving up too much in this circumstance. I wouldn't feel comfortable going about it that way. I think at that point, you're giving up too much of a commodity in the form of A.J. Brown and Javonte in exchange for just one singular player. I would rather have the depth that you have on roster, even with Javonte coming off of the bench. I feel like you should be able to get a better running back than Josh Jacobs. In a full PPR, I would like to get a running back that is more included within the receiving game. I'd rather get an Achane in exchange for a deal like this, but for Jacobs, not as comfortable in comparison to the alternative. It says, if he declines, should I give A.J. Brown another running back? Again, I would decline if I was you. I'm not even interested in making that trade to begin with. So in a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex, 1 quarterback format, again, I would try to look towards getting a better running back that is more implemented within the receiving game of their offense in a full PPR scoring format in comparison to what Jacobs is providing. I feel like you should be able to, with AJB and Javonte, get more. I know that AJB only just had himself a great week in week 3, but this should be a consistent factor going forward, and I'd rather have that on roster than not. All right, LDMND sends out a question. Says, I'm trying to shore up my RB2. In a 12-team full PPR, am I giving up too much if I trade Baker, Egbuka, and Chase Brown for David Montgomery, Herbert, and Ladd McConkey? My team is in the comments. Okay, just looking at this trade in a bubble, are you giving up too much? Well, I think Baker and Herbert, there could be an argument as to them being equal counterparts rest of the season. I think Herbert maybe just slightly is ahead of him based on the injuries that have occurred to the offense of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, whether that be offensive line or receivers. So I think there's an argument to be made that Herbert is the better option going forward. Now, as for the alternatives, Chase Brown and Igbokwe versus Ladd and David Montgomery, based on what we've seen thus far, I mean, again, Ladd and Chase Brown have done nothing. Igbokwe and David Montgomery have been solid. So I could see it being an equal trade, and I could see it being, as of right now, under the assumption that Ladd McConkey turns it around, I don't have an issue with the trade. I would like to try to give Chase Brown another go, but I understand why you would want to get rid of him. He's got the worst offensive line, and he still has one of the toughest strength of schedules ahead. So I don't mind this trade getting the Herbert side of this deal. Justin sends in a question, says, someone in my league just dropped Chase Brown. How much fab do I spend for him? I'm not even exaggerating. I would spend upward of 80 to 100%. Depending on how active your league is in terms of waiver wire. It's like, imagine Trey Benson was available. I was willing to spend 100% of my fab for Trey Benson yesterday in leagues in which he was available. Now, I don't play in any leagues in which he was available, but in the event in which he was, I would have dropped my 100% of my fab. So in the case of Chase Brown, I think we have to stay consistent with that. And I would just probably go with the 80 to 90 to 100% range, depending on how aggressive your league mates have been in that category. Michael Gonzalez sends in a question, says, good evening. Yeah, a little bit of a mistake there with the Godot. Anyway, good evening. Says, I have Jalen Warren, Etienne, and Chase Brown. I'm looking to start two in a full PPR. They have Fannin and Kincaid. Then Fannin or Kincaid. I would prefer to play Kincaid this week. As for the two of those three, I would prefer to just play Jalen Warren and Etienne as of right now. Thank you. All right, we had a question that came in from, where art thou? Here we go. Lascarn Jackson says, would you trade Kamara for BTJ and Tootin in a PPR? I think it depends on running back depth. If you have enough depth to be able to sustain a trade of this magnitude to where you're getting rid of Kamara, that would be a technical weekly starter for you in order to get BTJ. Honestly, in my mind, I'd prefer to have BTJ rest of the season, but I'm just trying to make sure that you have enough running back depth to where this isn't a negative trade for you to where you have to now start Tootin every week. If that would be the case, then I'm not interested. But in the case in which you have running back depth and you hit on Scadaboos and Judkins and other players like this, of that nature, to kind of fill in for the Kamara, contributions of the future, I don't mind this trade. I'll take the BTJ side rest of the season. Jesse M sends in a question, says, trade Javonte, Montgomery, and Rice for Bijan. 14-team half PPR. I feel like we're giving away too much there. In a 14-team league where everybody has very little depth, I don't think that Bijan Robinson's contributions to your team will be greater than what Javonte, Montgomery, and Rice can contribute in their own right for the next 14 weeks. So in my mind, I would rather just keep what you currently have rather than go for one singular player who is not going to be able to contribute the summation volume of what Javonte, Montgomery, and Rice will put forward on a weekly basis. And again, I would very much so believe that in a 14-team league, there's no way that these guys are sitting on your bench. If they are, then maybe we go for a lesser option and we're not giving away three because, again, injuries are to come and bye weeks are to come, and I'm not trying to completely ransack my team of depth. Johnny Kilroy sends in a question, says, should I play the Texans defense against the Titans or the Chargers against the Giants? Personally, I prefer the Texans defense. I don't mind playing the Chargers as another one of these kind of streaming options, but from Monday's waiver wire episode, I did have the Texans as my number one of the potential pickup options that were rostered in 50+% of leagues. So if the Texans are available, I would pick them up. I would play them against the Titans. The Titans as a whole they're struggling. And I'm sure the Texans, even though they offensively are struggling, they've still played incredible in terms of their defense. They're still pressuring the quarterback. They're still getting after him. And the Titans' offensive line is a little bit banged up as of late. Andrew Mitchell has sent in the question. Thank you, Andrew. I appreciate it. Says, I need a wide receiver. I was offered Andrews for Judkins. Interesting. I'm not really interested in Mark. I'm going to assume you need a tight end, but let's see here. Judkins is my RB4/5. Yeah, but I'm not even willing to go and get Mark Andrews. Like, the thing that Judkins has done over the course of the last 2 weeks has given me enough confidence to where I want to utilize him, or I want to try to wait for another big week here than sell him for a better tight end. Like, I would rather, or I'd feel more comfortable if I was getting back a Tyler Warren than a Mark Andrews. Like, in the event in which you have to rely upon touchdown dependent tight ends, it becomes incredibly, risky in this overall situation. Like, that's what I would prefer to do. I'd rather go after upper tier tight ends like a Tucker Kraft, a Ferguson, a Tyler Warren, not even Bowers or a McBride, because I think those are pipe dream kind of moves. But in the case of which you can get one of those three instead of Andrews, I think that would probably put you in a better position for the rest of the season. Primarily because, again, we got to remember that Isaiah Likely is returning this week, and there's a chance that he could dig into the overall workload of Andrews going forward. It says, do I counter with Marvin Harrison / Judkins for Andrews and Godwin or Terry, or try for Harvey / Odunze or Genty? I mean, look, in the event in which you can somehow, some way pull off a trade where you bring back Genty or Odunze, that would be incredible. Let's, maybe that would be a pretty solid move in this circumstance here. Thank you. Kid sends it a question, says, start Benson, Tedero, McMillan, or Judkins. I'd prefer to play Benson in tomorrow's game against the Seahawks. Thank you. Tony Lopez sends it a question. Tony, I'm going to get to that in just a moment. I'm going to write your name down on a separate notepad. If you can, do me a favor and retype in your question in the live chat, as there's a possibility that it is already updated and is not available. It says Amon-Ra. Oh, okay. So that's what you meant by AR5. Okay, got it. So Amon-Ra is what you meant earlier. So let me go back up to this previous question. So you currently have Sutton, AJ Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, alongside of Quentin Johnston. Look, yeah, you've got incredible depth. I still don't think that I'm willing to forfeit AJ Brown and Javonte Williams for just Jacobs. I think the crux of the issue isn't what you have on roster. The crux of the issue is what you're giving up in exchange for the running back depth that you would be getting in return, to which I believe ultimately, I'd rather keep what you have, or again, go after a running back that has a little bit more exposure to utilization within the receiving category. And again, like Javonte has been fantastic thus far. I understand that the offense as a whole may be downgraded going forward because of the offensive line injury, and of course CeeDee Lamb being out, but that doesn't mean that Javonte Williams hasn't been the RB6. He's averaging 17 points per game. He's a better running back than Jacobs right now, 1-for-1. So you having to also give up A.J. Brown in this trade just doesn't make sense in my mind. I think you're doing yourself a disservice and you're cutting yourself short by making a deal like that. So don't do it. All right. Continuing on, before we get to... did we take care of these questions? Trade Javonte? Yeah, okay. We took care of those. Tony, we'll get to in a moment. Justin McMillan says, trade Jamar for JSN. Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson, Rashee Rice, Odunze. If you could get JSN, I actually wouldn't mind it. I mean, again, you got to remember that there are going to be better performances from Jamar Chase going forward, but he's not going to be the Jamar Chase of last season. He cannot accomplish that with the likes of Jake Browning at quarterback. So he'll be a lesser version of himself, to which I'm thinking to myself, in a full PPR scoring format, would I feel more comfortable with someone of the caliber of Jackson Smith? I don't mind that trade. I'd also want to give Jamar Chase maybe a couple more weeks here, but in the event in which you're already out on him, I don't mind getting JSN in this circumstance. Obviously, in a 1-for-1, that makes a lot more sense. If I was going to get an Adams, I would want Adams and another piece. If I was going to get Rice, I would want Rice and a Dunze. It just makes it a little bit trickier. Okay, before I get to Juan Vaca Ramirez's question, let me see if Tony Lopez sent in the question into the live chat. Tony Lopez, let's see here. Says, in the Superflex full PPR, limit 2 quarterbacks per roster. I got offered Justin Fields and Pittman for my Jackson Dart and Rashee Rice. My other starting quarterback is Josh Allen, and my 2 starting wide receivers are BTJ and Adams. Should I accept this deal? It depends on your... Okay, so this is my thought process. I believe that Fields will be a better quarterback rest of season than Jackson Dart. I also believe that Rashee Rice is going to be a significantly better piece than Pittman once he does return. So the question really just remains and revolves around the idea of, how many points per touchdown do you get in the Superflex League? Is it 6-point or 4-point per passing touchdown at the quarterback position? Additionally, what is your current record? Because if your current record sits at 0-3, then I'm shipping away Rashee Rice in order to bring in Pittman to give myself a flexible option there. Maybe someone I would play over BTJ in the coming weeks here, and then obviously not have to worry about my second quarterback, as I'll be able to start Fields blindly henceforth. So as of right now, I'm leaning towards yes, depending on how that record looks. If you are playing in a 6-point per passing touchdown league and you're 3-0, at that point I would just hold on to Dart and Rice. Thank you, Tony. All right, let me get back up to Juan Vaca Ramirez's question, who says the following. All right, Juan, where art thou? Let's go. There it is. Says, start DK or Worthy. Yeah, I'd rather play Worthy. Again, he practiced in full earlier today. I'm feeling very confident in the idea that he would be a solid play against the Baltimore Ravens defense, as he would clear in a way be the number 1 receiving option. Says, should I trade Worthy for Debo? I don't mind that trade. As we're getting closer to the potential return of Rashee Rice, I think it certainly does impact Worthy's upside as a receiving threat within this offense. And as Terry McLaurin is dealing with his injuries, And of course, there's a possibility that Worthy could re-land on that shoulder and aggravate said injury and potentially miss even more time. I think moving for Debo, I think is actually the play henceforth. But if you're not going to be able to pull off that trade, Worthy over DK this week. Thank you. Mo Money sends in a question. Thanks, Mo. I appreciate it. Says, target Jacobs, Henry, Cook, or Saquon. Or be patient with my 1 and 2 team. PPR, I have May, Fields, AK, Judkins, Travion Henderson, RJ Mixon, Amon-Ra, JSN, Rome, BTJ, and Worthy. Look, if you were going to potentially go for I would go for any of these running backs. Ultimately, it's going to be more difficult to get someone like James Cook, considering he has put up a touchdown each of the last 3 weeks, in comparison to someone like Derrick Henry or Josh Jacobs, who's coming off of a lesser performance, Saquon Barkley coming off a lesser performance. So if you're in the position in which you could theoretically go for one of these other alternatives, Jacobs, Henry, Saquon, and you don't have to give up too much in order to get that in return, then I don't see why not. Like if there's a possibility in which you could accomplish this in a 2-for-1 circumstance, then I don't mind giving away Judkins alongside of like Rome in order to get myself Saquon. I don't mind that. That sounds like a bargain to me in my mind. BTJ and Travion for like a potential Derrick Henry move. Like these are options. It's just a matter of whether or not teams in your league are open to it. I'm willing to go after those. I think, again, Travion Henderson's about to break out this week against Carolina, so you probably want to keep him, but maybe Alvin Kamara would be the move alongside a Worthy or BTJ in this circumstance. Thank you. Link LaRosa sends in a question. Thank you, Snake. I appreciate that. Says, I lost CeeDee Lamb. My wide receivers are BTJ, Terrell McMillan, Johnston, Rice, and Pearsall. Okay, so you're pretty much set up at wide receiver even without Lamb here. Says, my running backs are Hubbard, Judkins, Henderson, and ETN, JCM, McBride at tight end, and quarterback's Dak. I'm 3-0, got lucky with matchups. Any suggestions? I think you hold it as is. I think in the meanwhile, I think your primary improvement needs to revolve around quarterback, because if there's not going to be a CeeDee Lamb for this Dallas Cowboys offense, I would like to probably assume that Dak Prescott's going to be a lesser play on a weekly basis. Therefore, we should probably look in the direction of trying to improve quarterback in the meanwhile, whether that be via pickups on the waiver wire. Like if you are theoretically looking to stream quarterback this week in the form of some of the alternative options on the waiver wire, under the assumption that Jayden Daniels doesn't play, you would pick up and play Mariota ahead of Dak Prescott. Under the assumption someone like Jordan Love is available this week, I'd be interested in playing that. I'd also be interested in maybe even picking up and playing Matthew Stafford this week over Dak Prescott, as I know that's going to be a high-scoring game between Matthew Stafford and the Rams taking on the Indianapolis Colts. Other potential options, I wouldn't even mind playing Mac Jones this week, under the assumption that Brock Purdy doesn't return. But as of right now, keep it as is. You're good to go. You got a really strong team there, and luckily you're 3-0, so you can survive any sort of windstorm of potential regression you may see in the next coming weeks at wide receiver. But luckily you do have guys like BTJ that can hopefully put together some solid weeks here in the meanwhile. All right, let's see here. Abdullah sends in a question. Says, Bijan for Sutton, Bucky, and Brees/Warren/Javante. I'm very confused as to how this trade is really looking, because there's just so many pieces here. Bijan for Sutton, Bucky, and Brees/Warren Javante. I mean, that doesn't really make sense to me. You're going to have to re-explain this trade. It's just not worded correctly to where I understand exactly who's getting what. Thank you. Snag2K says, should I trade Hampton and Kelsey for Bowers? No, I'd rather have Hampton and Kelsey. Says, my bench has Mason, Benson, Higgins, ETN. Yeah, look, if I was in your position, I would trade ETN and Kelsey for Bowers. I would not be trying to move Omarion Hampton rest of the season. I'd feel far more comfortable shipping off ETN in exchange. And if you could pull that off, more power to you, Snag. Yeah, it's not a matter of like this trade is, it's not a matter of that you're going about it the wrong way. It's just that the prospect that you are giving away is the one that I would prefer over the rest. Like I prefer Hampton over Mason, Benson, and ETN rest of season. And I'm sure the team in your league that has Bowers also prefers them. But if they're in desperate need of running back, I'm sure they'd be willing to take an ETN in exchange alongside of Kelsey for Bowers. And I think you should go about doing it that way. Big John sends in a question. Thank you, John. I appreciate it. Says, I'm 0-3 in a half PPR 10-team league. I've got Mahomes, Chase Brown, Scatterboo, BTJ, Debo, Ferguson, Pollard, Dobbins. Benches Lamb, Rice, Worthy, JCM, Olave, Pittman, Kittle. Need help with trades. Yeah, so if I was in your position, I'm immediately going to the 3-0 team in your league, and I'm trying to sell Lamb, Rice, or Kittle, or all three. In the event in which you can sell them to bring in depth, I think that is the only way you're going to salvage this team. You need running back depth immediately because obviously Chase Brown's not pulling it. In the meanwhile, again, you are in a 10-team league, so you have subsequent kind of backups that will fill in at a really good rate. Scatterboo, Dobbins, and Pollard should all play this week. Chase Brown should probably sit his ass on the bench until further notice. Debo, Ferguson, Mahomes, BTJ, these are all great options. But considering we may not be able to wait for the return of Rice and Lamb, I'm looking outright to immediately try to trade them alongside of Kittle to try to bring back any sort of relevant value. If you can go buy low on prospects such as Drake London, Ashton Genty, I would go ahead and I would explore those routes in exchange to potentially ship off those kind of options. Thank you. Jake Sosa sends in a question. Says in a 12-man double flex half PPR league, we've got Gibbs, K9, Quentin Johnson, Adunze in the flex. I have Dobbins and London. Okay. I have Quinshon Judkins on my bench. Should I start him over anyone? As of this current moment, in a half PPR, am I playing Judkins over Adunze, Dobbins? I don't think I play him over any of those options. It's primarily because of the matchup this week against the Lions that I feel less confident regarding Judkins' potential for upside. And I think you've got, honestly, just really good alternatives with Adunze, London, Johnston, Kenneth Walker, and Gibbs and Dobbins. So no, I don't make the move to which I am playing him over the alternatives, but in future weeks it may change because of upcoming matchups being the variable difference. Thank you. David Dooley sends in a question. Thank you, David. It says, should I drop Ramondre for Woody Marks, Algier, or Ollie Gordon? I feel like Ramondre Stevenson effectively I've lost all trust in him. So you won't see him in the rankings anytime soon. He fumbled on the 1-yard line, guys. I made him my hidden gem thumbnail. And not only did he fumble once, but he fumbled a second time as he was quite literally one step away from scoring a touchdown and having himself a solid fantasy week. He would have played the entire second half. It would have been a solid play, but he did me dirty. So right now, I'd rather just go for Ollie Gordon or Woody Marks. Ollie Gordon probably in a standard half PPR. Woody Marks in a full PPR. Thank you. 3 Pete sends in a question. Full PPR, pick 3. Judkins, Scatterboo, Swift, Waddle. Thank you. Of the 3, Waddle, Judkins, and Scat all play. Thank you. Actually, do I play Swift over Judkins? No, Judkins just gets as much receiving utilization, so I don't mind playing, Judkins, Scatterboo, Waddle. Juan Sardina sends in a question. Thank you, Juan. Says start 2 running backs and 2 flex. In a full PPR, we have Barkley, Kenneth Walker, Breece, Warren, Pickens, Hollywood, Brown, and Shakir. Okay. Barkley has to play. Walker has to play. Breece has to play. I think Warren has to. You know what? Yeah, I think I'm not even joking. I think I play all 4 running backs. In the event in which I don't play Breece or Warren, maybe Pickens is the alternative in which I go in the direction of, but I don't know if I feel as confident going there. So I think I just play all 4 running backs this week. Thank you. All right, Badabuski sends in a question. Says, no question, just signed up, and it's 100% worth it. I think you mean you signed up via Patreon. I think that's what you meant. Yeah, I did see you sign up. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. If you have any questions, be sure to send those over via Patreon. Thank you. Chan Dimitri sends in a question. Says, please help. Thank you. Okay, Chan, let me see if I can find your name in the live chat in regards to the question that you had for me, and then we can help you with that. Before I continue, again, I want to remind you guys, I'll be here until 7:30 p.m. PST. So again, I'll only be here for the next 36 minutes. If you guys have a question and you want to claim priority, the super chat is the way to do it. Or of course, like Badabuski just mentioned, if you guys want questions answered, you can go ahead and check out the Patreon. Again, you can get unlimited questions answered over the course of that subscription. You'll get rankings every Thursday and Sunday. And additionally, you'll get access to the exclusive Patreon-only Discord server if that's something that you're interested in. I'll also add you on Discord so you can send me screenshots of your teams to make the question and answer process that much more fluid between us. Thank you. All right, let's see where Chan's question is in the live chat here, shall we? Chan, where are you at, my man? I don't see anything from Chan. Chan, if you could do me a favor and retype in that question, that'd be greatly appreciated. I appreciate that. Brian Colorado says, in a Superflex full PPR, pick 3, Sutton, Quentin Johnston, Kyler, Kenneth Walker. As of right now, I would play Sutton, Kenneth Walker, and Kyler. Quentin Johnston's the odd man out there. Brian, thanks, man. Eddie J says, Knicks or Dimes? That's actually a really good question. I think I'd rather play Bo Nix because I think the Cincinnati Bengals are a complete dumpster fire right now. So I'm going to lean towards playing Knicks there. If Dimes was to, again, he got stuffed on the 1-yard line. Had he scored a rushing touchdown last week, would have made his entire week with that singular play. But I think Knicks is the play this week. Says trade Chase Brown for Henderson. I think both of them are going to break out in the not too distant future. I think both of them are very similar running backs in the terms of they're both capable receivers, but they're both playing in very shitty circumstances where offensive line play is below par and offensive play calling is below par. So which way you want to go about it, I think success will be found, but Chase Brown has no competition. That is the only difference as of right now. Where's Chan's question? Chan, where you at, my man? Nothing from Chan yet. Okay, very well. So until Chan wants to go ahead and set that up, we're going to go ahead and travel back to some of these questions so I can catch up and not lose too much time here as we're live streaming. Thank you very much. Chan Dimitri, if you could do me a favor, type that in. Thanks, man. All right, we continue on with Johnny Kilroy, who says, also, I traded Henry for Chan. Thoughts, please? Henry for Chan, beautiful. If you're playing in a full PPR, I think it's a fantastic trade to make. Again, he's going to continue to be incredibly fantasy relevant, and as long as they continue to protect Tua Tagovailoa and he stays healthy, he'll be fine. In the event even which Tua Tagovailoa misses time, you got to remember that Zach Wilson is a check down king. If you guys remember, in the year in which Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles in 2023, Zach Wilson played the entire year for the Jets. He checked it down every single week to Breece Hall. I think Breece was averaging 7 targets per game that season with Zach Wilson. So whichever way we go, Chan is going to be relevant. Shung Bull sends in a question. Says, I'm 3-0 with Genty, Pollard, and Mason. Should I send Mason for Henderson in a full PPR? I don't mind that trade. I personally would rather send Pollard, though, if I was in your position, but I could understand as to how the opposing team in your league may not be as interested in a trade of that magnitude. So in the event in which Mason is the ask for Hendo, I think long-term both are going to be relevant. I think even when Aaron Jones comes back, Mason kind of establishes himself as the full-time back. I think it's relatively even trade, though, because of the full PPR format and Mason not really being receiving relevant. Tosh.0 sends in a question. Says, should I trade Benson for Flowers? Trade Benson for Zay Flowers. If you need wide receiver, let me see what you have here. Javonte, Swift, and Cook. Okay. My wide receivers are Jefferson and Judy. Yeah. Considering you're in desperate need of wide receiver help, I have no problem at all getting Zay Flowers in exchange for a Trey Benson. I feel like what Zay Flowers presented this most recent week against the Lions is not indicative as to what he is potentially capable of producing on a weekly basis. I think we can all agree to that. So going forward, Flowers I think is a great option. If you can't get a Flowers and maybe someone's willing to give you Devontae Adams for that, or potentially an alternative option like a Cortland Sutton, I think that is also very much so on the table and something that I'm willing to explore. Tyreek Hill could be an option. Alternatively, we could look in the direction if you're playing in a full PPR. No, I think those are good options. Again, as of right now, those are fair. Those are safe. Thank you. And then it says, Ayuk is on my bench, 2 flex league. Yeah, let's make that move. Andrew Gang sends in a question. Thank you, Andrew. It says in a half PPR 12-team league, I'm 3-0 with May, Puka, Egbuka, Sutton, Myers, Io Manor, CMC, ETN, Kenneth Walker, Tyler Warren, trying to package Tyler Warren and Kenneth Walker for a running back upgrade, or do I keep my depth? If I was in your position, I'd keep depth. Primarily because you play in a half PPR scoring format. I typically prefer to play running backs in the flex position in this circumstance. So if you're going to have Kenneth Walker, CMC, and ETN as your 1, 2, 3, and then you're just picking Puka Nacua alongside of whoever of these 3, Egbuka, Sutton, and Myers as your wide receiver 2 going forward, I think it leaves you in a very advantageous position every single week rest of the season, especially once bye weeks start next week. It's going to really start to click in with more injuries. I prefer the depth unless someone gives you Jonathan Taylor, Bijan Robinson for these 2 running backs, unless you're going to get a legitimate top-tier running back, objectively, Christian McCaffrey. You already have it. Never mind. Unless someone's going to give you Bijan, Taylor, Gibbs, I think I just keep what you have on roster. Thank you. Appreciate it, my man. Sergio says questions in the chat. Thank you, Sergio. I'm going to write your name down real quick here, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to find that in just a moment. Before I do so, Next Gen Financials says trade JCM and Shaheed for Benson. Yes, absolutely. Without a doubt in my mind, I would rather have Trey Benson rest of the season. That's a fantastic trade if you can pull that off, my man. Thank you. Nathan Salazar. Nathan, hope you're doing well. Long time no see, my man. Says in a full PPR, I got offered a trade. I give them London and Kittle. I have Juwan Johnson and my other tight end. They offered me Aaron Jones, Egbuka, and Garrett Wilson, and Kelsey. I also have Mason. London and Kittle for Jones, Egbuka, Garrett Wilson, and Kelsey. If you're in desperate need of wide receiver depth, I could justify making this move. Ultimately, I don't think... I want to know what the rest of your team looks like. I'm going to be honest. LZ also said questions in the chat. LZ, I'm going to write your name down. Do me a favor, retype that question, and when you get a chance, thanks. I would like to know what the rest of your team looks like, because Aaron Jones going to the IR, even when he comes back, he's going to be such a lesser option. I don't think he starts for you unless you're in a bind in a bye week or, an injury circumstance. To which I'm thinking to myself, okay, would I rather have Garrett Wilson or London? I think, honestly, I'd rather have London, but you're also getting the likes of Igbuka plus Kelsey, which is equal to the potential of what Kittle could provide rest of season. Ultimately, I think it's a relatively equal trade, to which if you need the wide receiver depth and Igbuka starts for you, sure. If not, I keep London. Thank you. Omar says, pick up Ollie Gordon, G/J. Okay, Ollie Gordon, Jalen Coker, Godwin, half PPR. I would pick up Godwin. He practiced fully today. It's a very, very, very positive sign. Spencer James says, I got offered Jonathan Taylor and Keon Coleman. Oh, there you go. My chat just crashed. Okay. As I try to reload the live chat, I'm going to go to the live chat and I'm going to look for the questions that you guys didn't have initially attached so that we can go ahead and get those established and taken care of in the meanwhile. So let's go ahead and let's see here. Okay, I see your couple questions here. So first and foremost, let's take care of Sergio. He said, I messed around today and I traded Ladd and Hawkinson for Bowers. That's a fantastic trade. I have no issue with it at all. Then I traded Genti for Olave. All right, now we messed around and fucked around and found out. Starting lineup is Mahomes, Kyron, Quinn. Yeah, honestly, I don't like the idea of trading Genti for Olave. The prior trade I prefer, though. That was nice. That was nice. Okay, anyway. So yeah, that was a little bit too much in my mind. A little bit too much. I would like to keep Genti going forward. PPR, this is from LZ7, who says PPR 2 flex 2-1. I'm currently, okay, so should I trade Chase and Baker for a quarterback upgrade? Like Lamar or Allen? Bucky, Omarion, Nico, JSN, Jawan, Sutton, Garrett Wilson, Keon RJ. Yeah, if you were in a position to where you could flip both of those for Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, I would. And I think that would be a fantastic trade. Considering what you have on roster, you can afford to do so. Thank you. Okay, good to go. Chan Dimitri follows up, says, I'm 3-0 in a 12-team full PPR league. Okay, perfect. That's fantastic to hear. We have Knicks, Mayfields, Hampton, Bucky, Pollard, JCM, Okay, we have Amon-Ra, Rome, Igbuka, Sutton, Tedero, McMillan, Pearsall, Juwan Johnson. What can I do to upgrade? Is Igbuka/Pollard for Genti and Rice a good trade? Yes, it is. If you can get Genti and Rice in this circumstance, considering your 3-0 record and the depth of which you currently have on roster, I would be very comfortable making that trade. If you can establish that and get it done, Chan, that would be a W for you going forward. Thank you. Okay, we caught up on all those questions. I'm going to continue on here. Again, I'm going to be closing out today's live stream at 7:30. So again, at some point here, I'm going to try to quickly get through all of these questions to the best of my ability. Thank you. All right, so we took care of a lot of these questions in this circumstance. Nathan, maybe we could talk about the potential of what your team looks like going forward. I'm going to write your name down if you can go ahead and send in that roster later on so I can see what you have. Thank you. All right, so in the case of this question, I got offered JT and Keon Coleman. This was Spencer James again. We got cut off last time. For CD, Godwin, and Benson. Wow. Yeah, okay. Sounds good to me. I have CD. Yeah, let's take it. I would take the Jonathan Taylor side. I think, again, considering your 2-1 record, I would like to not be on the opposite side of the 8 ball in the event in which you end up stringing together 3 losses here until Lamb comes back. So, yeah, give me Jonathan Taylor going forward. I'm willing to make that move. I understand that you're paying a lot in order to get rid of CD Lamb, but in order to kind of salvage your season, it may be necessary to do it this way. You could wait a week, see if your team can survive with Benson and Godwin, and in the event in which they do and both of them play well, you may be able to sell them for more, or you can just go ahead and take the deal that is currently offered to you and just try to cash in and hope for the best. Jose Rodriguez says, in a 2 wide receiver, 2 running back, 1 flex format, I got Neighbors, London, Golden, T-Mac, Gibbs, HN, Bucky, Mason, Brees. Quarterback is May and Jones, half PPR, 1 and 2. Look, as of right now, I think you have a good team. I think Neighbors is going to get better, and so will London in due time here. Gibbs, HN, Bucky, Mason, Brees. You've got so much running back depth. If I was in your position, I'm trying to most likely utilize Mason and Brees Hall. or maybe even, yeah, Mason and Breece Hall are the ones that I want to get rid of. If I could trade Mason for a viable tight end, beautiful. In the event in which your league doesn't have tight ends, I'm taking Mason, I'm taking London, and I'm shipping him off, and I'm trying to go get, maybe I take Bucky in London, and I try to go get Puka Nacua, just to really light it up. That's how I'd approach it. Thank you. Jason, like, it doesn't have to be Puka. It could just be one of the top receivers, right? Like maybe, but if I'm going to give away Bucky in London, I want the number one wide receiver. If I'm going to give away London and Breece, then okay, yeah, give me JSN. I'll be happy with that. Thank you. Jason Hosier sends in a question. Says, in a half PPR league, I have Josh Allen, Henry, Judkins, Debo, Higgins, Javonte Williams, Laporta. I want to trade for Bijan. Who would you offer? I think under the assumption that you're trading for Bijan, they're going to want running back depth in return. Therefore, you would most likely have to give away Henry and Judkins or Henry or Javonte to be able to establish this trade. In the event in which they would take a Henry plus Debo or Henry plus Higgins trade, that would be preferred. But I would assume you're going to have to give a 2-for-1 in which you're giving away Henry Judkins in order to accomplish that. If you're okay with that, then we can go ahead and make that move. But I would try to give away Henry plus a receiver before I go ahead and get rid of any of these running backs, because in a half PPR, I would like to have a running back in my flex and not have to give 2-for-1. Thank you. Donahue Brown sends in a question. Says, bench one in a PPR, BTJ or Pearsall? As of right now, Juwan Jennings did not practice today. Pearsall didn't either, but he did say he was going to be good to go this week. I'm assuming that Pearsall is going to be the lone receiver for another consecutive game, to which I prefer Pearsall. As for your next question, Drake May or Daniel Jones this week? Between the two of them, I would rather play Drake May this week. Thank you. All right, continuing on. We had a question from the Watch Hangout who says, I traded Jalen Hurts, Jacoby Myers, and Ramondre Stevenson for Patrick Mahomes, Javonte, and Christian Kirk. Okay. Says CeeDee Lamb, Hurt, start 2. Okay. As for the question as a whole, I mean, if you needed the running back depth, I think it's a viable trade. Obviously, it's a downgrade at quarterback and it's a downgrade at wide receiver, but it's certainly an upgraded running back that hopefully will be able to pan out for you in the future. As for your start 2 between wide receiver and flex, between Trey Tucker, Chubb, Christian Kirk, Juwan Johnson, Ollie Gordon, in a PPR format, I would feel most comfortable playing Juwan Johnson alongside of Trey Tucker in this circumstance. I like the idea of playing Nick Chubb, but he has to score a touchdown, which, I mean, right now, I don't know what to expect out of the Texans offense outside of Nico Collins succeeding. Everybody else is a question mark. Andrew Mitchell sends in a question, says, hey, wide receiver need, have Warren, Marvin Harrison, Judkins, Worth, Terry/Godwin. Have Warren, Marvin Harrison, and Judkins for Terry/Godwin. I'd rather have the Marvin Harrison Judkins. Now, I understand that you need wide receiver in need. I don't know if Terry McLaurin's injury is going to hold him out for a significant time. Like, I'd hate to make this move and then Terry doesn't play this week and neither does Godwin. Like, those are the things that I'd have to just wait and see. In the event in which they're both going to be healthy this week, I don't mind making the move because you're in need of wide receiver depth. I'm assuming you've got yourself a fair amount of injuries, maybe a CeeDee Lamb or Evans injury that you mentioned earlier. So I'd wait until Friday. Once we have a clear indication as to whether or not Terry and Godwin are playing, then we'd be a little bit more comfortable making that kind of a trade. Felix says, trade A.J. Brown for Pearsall. No, I'd rather have A.J. Brown the rest of the season, genuinely. Mano Patel sends in a question, says, half PPR, Pollard, Garrett, Benson, Pickens, Jefferson, Egbuka, Hubbard, Jacobs. Okay, 2 wide receiver, 2 running back, 2 flex. Packers or the Vikings defense? I think the Packers and Vikings defense can be played blindly every week rest of season. I don't think there's a real, you don't have to pick between the two. I think if I was in your position, I just probably pick up the Packers and roll them every week rest of season. If you wanted to do the same thing with the Vikings, you can, but I prefer the Packers. As for your follow-up question, in regards to who we're starting this week, Jefferson and Egbuka are my number 1 and 2 wide receivers. Jefferson and Garrett Wilson are my number 2 wide receivers. The running backs I would start are Jacobs and Benson, and then I would follow by playing Jefferson, Garrett Wilson, Benson, Jacobs, Egbuka, and probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It probably ends up either being Hubbard or Pickens, to which, as of right now, maybe it's just Pollard. You know what? I think it's just Pollard against the Houston Texans. So it's Pollard, Garrett Wilson, Benson, Jefferson, Egbuka, Jacobs. Thank you. Outdoors for Life says questions in the chat. Outdoors, thank you. Let me write your name down and we'll go ahead and check that out. Says Old J running with PPR pick 3 for week 4. Neighbors, Benson, Egbuka, Tet McMillan. Tet McMillan's the odd man out. Everybody else starts. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Old J running. Alejo sends in a question. Says PPR, full PPR. Made a lot of trades. I have Gibbs, Henry, Hampton, Hall, and Benson at running back. I have Devontae, BTJ, McConkey at wide receiver. I need 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and 1 flex. Okay. So, I have Devontae, BTJ, and McConkey at wide receiver. 2 running backs. Okay. I mean, look, as of right now, the 2 running backs that I'm playing this week objectively are Gibbs and Henry. And then I'm also playing Hampton at your flex, to which I am playing Devontae Adams and Lad McConkey at wide receiver. Thank you. Fantasy Forecast says I traded my Swift and Debo for A.J. Brown. Did I screw up? No, that's a fantastic trade. I don't want Swift anymore. If you can get rid of Swift, guys, get rid of him. A.J. Brown's a fantastic haul in exchange. Abraham Hernandez says redraft full PPR. I trade away Jamar Chase and Omarion Hampton for Njigba and Bucky Irving. Beautiful. I mean, look, here's the reality, right? Hampton and Bucky Irving, very comparable value. Njigba and Chase, because of the downgrade of quarterback for Chase, comparable value. I think this is an equal trade across the board in a full PPR scoring format. I don't have an issue with it at all. Okay, let me get back to the live chat really quickly just to go see what Outdoors had to say real quick, and then we'll get back to the super chat questions. I don't see anything from Outdoors. Okay, so you're going to have to retype that in when you get a chance. Appreciate it. In the meanwhile, again, a quick reminder, I will be live streaming here on the channel until 7:30 p.m. PST. I've got 18 more minutes. So I do see a lot of questions. I would probably suggest, guys, if you're thinking about sending in a super chat, maybe hold off on that until we figure out where we're at, because as soon as 7:30 rolls around, I got to get out of here. I appreciate it, though, guys. Thank you. Okay, we go on to Damien, who says, and I'm currently 1-2. My lineup, okay, let's see here. Lineup and drop 1 for Godwin. 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, 1 tight end, 1 flex. Chase Brown, Warren, Debo, Flowers, Jawan Johnson. We have Hawkinson, Woody, Harvey, Charbonnet, Troy Franklin, Shaheed. Yeah, if I was going to drop somebody, Shaheed gets the axe out of the group. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Damien. Says, if you suggest 2 for 1 trade, make space. I mean, you could theoretically do that, but I think Shaheed is a solid drop. I don't mind that. Ray says, I need 2 wide receivers. London, Myers, Quentin Johnston, Ladd, or Sutton. If I'm playing 2 of these wide receivers this week, it's going to be Sutton alongside of London. Thank you. Eddie J says, Knicks or Dimes? I'd prefer to play Knicks. Trade Chase Brown. Oh, yeah, we already answered this earlier. Never mind. I answered this. We move on to Abdullah, who says, in a 12-man, 2-flex league, 1 and 2, Daniel Jones, Bijan, Hampton, RJ Tootin, Drake, Metcalf, Pickens, Kraft moves? ? Need Drake to have a good game and sell for Rice and more. As of right now, yeah, let's wait and let's see what Drake London can put together this week. I'm not really moving him. Daniel Jones, Bijan, Hampton, those are all solid plays for the rest of the season. Kraft you want to keep as your tight end rest of the season. You're basically just looking for, in the meanwhile, Drake London to play better, Metcalf to play better, and Pickens to continue to play well in the absence of Lamb, to which then you can go ahead and maybe push them off via trades in the coming weeks. So I'm holding for right now, even though you're 1 and 2. JK says, flex 1, Kamara, Devontae Smith, or Pollard. As of right now, I'm going to lean towards probably going with Pollard if it's a half PPR standard, Kamara in a full PPR. Arbat says, trade Chase Brown, Javonte, Tyler Warren, and get Kenneth Walker and Trey McBride. In a full PPR, if you can afford losing running back depth, which again, very many cannot, if you can afford to lose running back depth in order to bring this in, the only way I ever make this trade comfortably is if I have Charbonnet. If I don't have Charbonnet, I'd be very sketched out, but I'd be still willing to make the move. Caleb Rios says, in a full PPR, Hubbard or McConkey? In a full PPR format, man, that New England Patriots run-stop defense is absolutely legit this season. I think I play McConkey there. Gabriel Catalan sends in a question. Says, love the show, Andrew. I got to sit 1. Flowers, Garrett Wilson, Marvin Harrison Jr., or Scattaboo. Of the bunch, Marvin Harrison sits in a full PPR. I appreciate the kind words, Gabriel. Thank you. William Campbell says, loving my team, but what's your ideal lineup in a 10-team half PPR, 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format? Neighbors, Puka, Egbuka. Okay, so Neighbors and Puka have to play. So then when we look at the running back position, if we're starting 2 of them, as of Dobbins, Hubbard, and Judkins, Montgomery, and Kenneth Walker, I would be playing Kenneth Walker alongside of Dobbins. Actually, you know what? Yes, I would. Dobbins and Kenneth Walker will be my 2 starting running backs, to which then I am waiting to figure out who I'm playing in the flex. What I mean by that is I have to wait to see if Egbuka is going to be the lone receiver if Godwin plays or not. In the event in which he is alone, I probably play him. In the event in which he is accompanied by Godwin this week, my other flex probably ends up being, it probably ends up just being Chuba Hubbard, or yeah, it probably ends up being Chuba Hubbard. Thank you. Failure is no option says trade Mason for Henderson. I don't have an issue with that. If you're playing in a full PPR, it's solid. Omar G says, I need a running back. DK for Trevion Henderson makes sense. Yes, absolutely. I have Chase Brown, which has been rough. Yeah, no, I understand. Hendo is a great trade there. AB23 says, start 2, bench 1. Olave, Pearsall, Harrison Jr. Harrison gets the bench. Thank you. Ahmed Khan sends in a question. Ahmed, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to check that in just a moment. Thank you. The man 0907 sends in a question. Says, PPR Pickens for Trey Benson. Good? Yes. That's a great trade. Thank you. Gucci Han says, my guy, I'm down bad in a full PPR. I need a wide receiver 2 between Downs, Burden, and Tolbert. And I need a flex between, okay, Downs, Burden, and Tolbert. I'm playing Josh Downs primarily because Alec Pierce is in the concussion protocol. It'll open up more opportunity for Downs. Says, I need a flex between Chubb, Marks, Hunt, Tolbert, and Burden. Nick Chubb would be the start there. Thank you. Shung Bull says, full PPR. Should I trade Chase Brown for Benson? Again, I think I mentioned this earlier in response. I don't mind the trade. As long as it's a full, yeah, it is a full PPR. I don't mind the trade. That's fine by me. You're just getting out from underneath the disaster, what that is. Okay, we're catching up here. Fantasy Forecast says, start, sit, 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex. Refer to my question with the roster above. Okay, Fantasy Forecast. Let's see what you have here. Of the available, if I'm starting 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and 1 flex, Benson, Bucky, Amon-Ra, AJ Brown, Sutton is in my flex. That's how this works. Yeah, it has to work that way, especially considering you're playing in a full PPR. Sutton has to be the flex. Yeah, so these are the 5 guys. These are the 5 players you go with, for sure, without a doubt in my mind. To which, maybe if you want to make a trade where you're shipping away Quentin Johnston and Javonte Williams for Jacobs, it's a little bit more sustainable. We can definitely explore that reality. Okay, really quickly before I get to some of these other questions, Emily, I do see your question there. I wanted to go ahead and catch up and see if Outdoors had sent in a question earlier. Outdoors for Life says that I'm 1 and 2. My wide receivers are Nico, Tet, Jacoby Myers, Jamison Williams, Rice. RBs are Henry, Hampton, Dobbins, Judkins, Pollard, Mixon on the IR. Okay. Tight ends are Warren, Hawkinson, quarterbacks JD, Jones. Should I trade running backs for a better wide receiver? I mean, considering your running back depth consists of Hampton, Dobbins, Judkins, Pollard, I would look to try to move Pollard because next week Tyjae Spears returns, and that could be ending up being a little bit of a downgrade to Pollard to the point to where I would prefer the alternatives over him rest of the season. So Pollard would be the one that we want to ship off. If you can accomplish that to where you are bringing in a wide receiver that, again, hasn't potentially played well recently, maybe you can go buy low on the potential of a Drake London, buy low on a Ladd McConkey. Those are alternatives where you could make some plays in that direction. In the event in which you take Pollard and add it to a Myers, you may be able to get something better than that, potentially, depending on what you're being able to explore. But I think you have enough RB depth in the form of Hampton, Dobbins, and Judkins to be able to sustain. The only thing that I would probably tell you afterward is that if you're going to make a 2-for-1 trade, see what it would take to get Harvey, just to have the handcuff of Dobbins available for the future. Thank you. I wanted to check Ahmed Khan's question real quick. There we go. Ahmed says the following. Let me scroll this down. Where the heck did they go? Here we go. Says my team consists of JD5, Jordan Love, Derrick Henry, Chase Brown, Kenneth Walker, Judkins, Trey Benson, CD Adams, Sutton, Pearsall, Tyler Warren, Ayuk, Mixon, 10-team full PPR 1 and 2. Trade Henry and Chase Brown for Juan and Wan'Dale Robinson for CMC and Olave. You know, as much as I feel like you're giving up too much, because I know that Chase Brown's not a bad football player, I just think that the circumstance of what he has been dealt with, the hand that he has been dealt as of late, has been pretty shitty. I could justify making this trade. I don't like it though. Like I feel like there's still so much value to be had with Henry and Chase Brown that we haven't even scratched the surface. If you wanted to get out on it just to have Christian McCaffrey, that's fine. And Olave obviously is a PPR fiend with the 10 receptions he's coming away with every week almost. So I don't mind the trade. I just personally, if it was me, I would probably hold on to Henry and Chase Brown in this circumstance. Thank you, Ahmed. All right, closing out. Again, we have 10 more minutes, and then we're closing the live stream. Please, Daniel Barnes, you be the last one that sends in a super chat. No more after that. Thank you, guys. I appreciate the patience here. All right, we're catching on with Emily Doyle, who says, if I take Purdy off the IR and drop Geno, I also have Goff, and it's a 1 QB league. I also have Wanda Robinson plus Shaheed on my bench. If I have to drop one at some point, which? Okay, under the assumption that you drop Geno to bring Purdy off of the IR, and then you needed to theoretically make another swap to drop somebody, Shaheed would be the first casualty. Otherwise, then it would then be Goff after you're keeping Purdy, assuming he's healthy. Thank you. Felix Rodriguez says, trade Adunze for Kyron and London. Yes, immediately, without a question. Yeah, thank you. Jake Sosa says, in a 12-man double flex half PPR league, do I trade Rome Odunze and Judkins for Henry? I don't have an issue with it. Personally, in a double flex league, you're going to have enough depth to be able to justify it. In the event in which you do not have enough depth to be able to sustain a very solid starting lineup, I would say maybe we just hold. But in the event in which you do have enough volume of depth, then sure, let's make that move. Will J says, Scadaboo or Swift or Myers, flex. Okay, I'd prefer to play Scadaboo, and I'd prefer to play Myers. And as for Ertz or Pitts, as of right now, it depends on who plays quarterback. If it's going to be Jaden Daniels, I'll take Ertz. If it's not, I'll take Pitts. Thank you. Lee Flores says, pick 3 in a full PPR. Sutton, Ekbuka, AJ Brown, Hill, Odunze. I posted my wide receiver rankings earlier today. As to these available players, as to who I would play, I'd probably go with Sutton, Tyreek Hill, and most likely AJ Brown. No, you know what? Actually, it depends. If there's no Chris Godwin, I would go Sutton, Ekbuka, Tyreek Hill. In the event in which Chris Godwin does play, it would then be Sutton, AJ Brown, and Hill. Thank you. Sitting, Dunze sounds like an absolute disaster, but you just have too much wide receiver depth here. M. Chase sends in a question, says, trade Derrick Henry for Pearsall, Jordan Mason, and Chase Brown. Yes, give me all 3 of these options. Beautiful. Alex Songrass, Real Estate, sends in a question. Says, in a standard start 3, K9, Jacobs, Mason, Achane. In a standard scoring format where you get 0 points per reception, these are the 3. Achane's the odd man out. Next question, Hunter or Ferguson? I'd rather play Ferguson. Full PPR, Hunter / Hawkinson. At that point, I would take Hunter. Henry against the Carolina Panthers, yes. And then Vikings or Denver. As of this week, let me see where I have them. I'd rather play the Denver defense this week against Cincinnati. Then Dak Prescott or Fields, give me Fields. Thank you, Alex. I appreciate it. Jason says, trade Josh Allen and Debo for Bijan. Yeah, I'm okay with that. I don't have an issue with it. If you have enough wide receiver depth and you have a good backup quarterback to sustain this, I'll take that deal. All right, Skeeter sends in a question. Says, half PPR start 1, Tyreek, Ladd, Benson, or Tedero McMillan. Of these available options, in a half PPR scoring format, I'd probably end up playing Trey Benson. Then Tyreek Hill second, then Ladd third, and Tedero McMillan fourth. Daniel Barton says, in a full PPR rest of season, Diggs or Io Manor? I'd rather have Diggs rest of season. Thoughts on Ayuk? If he comes back and he's coming off the ACL, I think it's going to take a little bit of time to ramp up. Even once he comes back, it may take a month or maybe even 3 weeks for him to get back to being normal Ayuk. Spencer James sends in a question, says, JT guy backed out. Okay. I now have an offer of CD for Garrett Wilson and Drake London and Mike Evans. Sorry. Garrett Wilson or Drake London and Mike Evans. Got it. I would take the Drake London and Mike Evans side of that for CeeDee Lamb. That's fine by me. I would prefer to have Drake London rest of the season. I don't mind the idea of taking Garrett Wilson. I will say, if you were to take Garrett Wilson in this circumstance, I'd be okay with it. But I do believe that Drake London will be the better option henceforth. Thank you. Mike Alvarez sends in a question. One of the final questions of this wonderful day. Thank you guys for being patient with me today, sending in these super chats. Let me go ahead and let me find Mike Alvarez's question in the live chat. Mike Alvarez says, which running backs? Okay, which running backs? Who do you give up for either Pickens or BTJ? Standard league, the running backs I have are Kyron, Benson, Kenneth Walker, Mason, Judkins, Pollard, Swift. Okay, Pollard and Swift immediately are the ones that I want to get rid of. So if in the event you can give 2 for 1 for BTJ in specific, that's what I would prefer to do. In the event in which they would just take Judkins 1 for 1 for BTJ, sounds good to me. In the event in which they would take Mason 1 for 1 for BTJ, sounds good to me. Otherwise, I'm not giving away Kyron, Benson, or Kenneth Walker. That's my immediate reaction to this. Thank you. Okay, let's go ahead. We had a question that came in from Revelant. Sorry. Revelant says full PPR, pick 2. Kenneth Walker, Jordan Mason, Montgomery. Kenneth Walker and Jordan Mason are my starts. Says pick 3 between Malik Neighbors, Tyreek Hill, Ted Earl, McMillan, and Pickens. Neighbors number 1, Tyreek number 2, Pickens number 3. And then as for the Vikings or the 49ers defense, I'll take the Vikings defense this week against Aaron Rodgers. Thank you. Start David Montgomery or Javonte Williams in a full PPR. I would prefer to probably play Javonte Williams because of his receiving upside. Says, do I offer Metcalf for BTJ? Yes. If you can get BTJ for Metcalf, you should offer it. Trade Mason for Bowers straight up. I don't mind that, assuming you have enough running back depth to sustain a move of that capacity. Emiliano sends in a question. Says, trade Chase Brown for Dobbins. I've got Harvey on my bench. I'm okay with the idea of going down that path. Personally, again, as the conductor of the Chase Brown hype train, that is, I would prefer to keep Chase Brown, but in the event in which you've had enough and you can't sustain it, sure. Trade Pollard for Henderson immediately. Absolutely, without a doubt in my mind. Guys, if you have an opportunity today to trade for Travion Henderson, please do yourself the favor. Andrew Kyler or Daniel Dimes? Ooh, that's a real... I think Look, here's the thing. I haven't done my quarterback research as of yet. So that is going to be a to be determined for tomorrow's video, but I'm most likely going to prefer to play Kyler this week. I got offered Ashton Genty for Ricky Pearsall, Tony Pollard. I would rather have the Ashton Genty side of this deal. Alessandro. Fannin or Henry? I'd rather have Henry. Assuming it's this week's play. Need 3 between Jennings, Harrison, Shakir, Worthy. Worthy should play. Probably Harrison should play. And if it's Jawan Jennings, if he's healthy, I'd play him over Shakir. But if not, then of course you play Shakir. Shakir or Zay Flowers, it's got to... Shakir for Zay Flowers, I don't know how you would pull that off, Jorge, but yes, give me Zay Flowers 10 times out of 10 for the rest of my life. All right, guys, I appreciate it. Let me see if I had... I know that I wanted to see if Nathan had a follow-up, maybe, Nathan. Says, also that trade, they're only giving me Ekbuka or Garrett Wilson. Okay, Nathan, let me go back to the original trade in specific. Give them London and Kittle. I have Jawan. Oh, okay. So it's either Ekbuka or Garrett Wilson. No, I'd rather have London and Kittle than rest of season. I'm not making that trade. Thank you. I'm glad that we were able to figure that out. I appreciate it. Okay, guys. We got 2 more minutes here. I'm going to answer a couple more questions, and we're going to close it out. I appreciate y'all being patient. Appreciate y'all coming through, supporting the channel. I will be back tomorrow with my quarterback and tight end rankings video. Additionally, we'll be back tomorrow after the game, live streaming here on the channel. Again, if you guys want to get your questions answered while I am not streaming, you can go ahead and check out the Patreon. Again, this is something that is available, has been for years. If you guys are interested in all of the potential kind of services in which you get in return for your subscription, whether it is Thursday and Friday rankings, asking me unlimited questions, and of course the Patreon exclusive server on Discord. These are all available to you. I'm going to answer a couple more questions and we're going to close it out. I appreciate it. Tiago says, in a 10-team non-PPR start 7, traded Nico for McBride. My wide receivers are Chase, Ladd, and I have Rice on my bench. Comments. I prefer to keep Nico rest of the season, but I can understand making the move. I just feel like in a non-PPR, I don't need McBride. His value is based on receptions, not touchdowns. Zach says Daniel Dimes or Justin Fields if healthy. Justin Fields if he's healthy. Dustin says, in a 3 wide receiver league, should I trade BTJ for McBride? I have Puka, Collins, and Godwin coming back. Personally, in a full PPR, I'm okay. I'd take McBride there in a full PPR. Would you take Chase Brown / Ekbuka for Jonathan Taylor? No, I would rather have so much more. Like they'd have to give me another player on top of it and have to be a really good player. Judkins or Scatterboo rest of season. Preferably, I would rather have Scatterboo. Colin Smith says, traded Ekbuka for Flowers. That's a great trade. I like that. Also have Mike Evans. Yeah, that's fine. You're good to go. Andrew Morales says, hi, Andrew. Should I drop Zach Ertz or Njoku to pick up Likely? No, keep them both until Likely shows signs of life, and we're not making a move there. I have Ferguson starting. Yeah, you're good to go. Again, I want to utilize Ertz or Njoku in a potential upcoming trade here. Sebastian, where are the Javonte, Etienne, or Ted McMillan in my flex full PPR? I probably just end up playing Etienne there. Is Garrett Wilson a hold? Yes, absolutely he's a hold. Should I trade Quentin Johnston for BTJ? That's a really tough question. I think off of just the principle of what I know in terms of the value and the talent of BTJ, I say yes. Jennings or Henderson in a full PPR this week? Henderson. All right, guys. I appreciate y'all. Again, I'll be back later tomorrow after the game via live stream. Hopefully I can answer your questions then or via the Patreon. Outside of that, that's where I'm going to call this afternoon. Much love, and until next time, I'll see you guys. Peace.